The criminal act done by a 16-year-old boy in Singapore has made the whole country in a complete surprise. The first documented human case of monkey bee virus has been identified in China. On the 17th of July 2021, catastrophic floods swept through China's Henan province. A special report has done by a reporter regarding the political interest of youngsters after the parliament reconvention. NBA 2020-2021 season has finally come to its end with Milwaukee Bucks winning the championship. Tokyo 2020 Olympics has officially started with the commencement of the opening ceremony. Good morning and welcome to UCSI TV News. This is Aini. In today's news, we will be covering on few international news, sports news, along with a special report done by our reporter. Now, bringing you to the eye on the news for today. The whole nation in Singapore was caught in shock. A 16-year-old schoolboy in Singapore has been charged with murdering a fellow student in a case that has shocked the whole country. Recently, on 20th of July, a 13-year-old boy was found dead in a school's bathroom. An axe was seized as evidence, knowing that the boy was killed by the item. The boy was killed by a 16-year-old boy who has mental health issues. According to early investigation, the two boys do not know each other. The incident happened at a prestigious high school, River Valley High School. According to the police report, when the incident happened, students were kept in the classroom and many of them were sending panic messages to their friends and parents, with some saying that they had seen a person wielding an axe. The whole country was shocked at the news and many grieve for the 13-year-old boy who has died due to this incident. Regarding this matter, the country's education minister Chan Chun-sing said his ministry was working closely with police on the investigations. In response to the country's mental health rate among the students, he also addressed students in the country saying, "You are never alone, and we will always stand ready to help you. Our deepest condolence upon the victim's family, and we encourage every student to positively seek for medical or counseling help if you ever struggle in your mental health." Next, according to a study released by the Chinese Center for Disease Control, CCDC and Prevention, a 53-year-old veterinary surgeon in Beijing died after catching the monkey bee virus. According to the study, the victim, who was China's first known human case, worked in an experimental research center specializing in non-human primate breeding. After dissecting two dead monkeys in March, he developed nausea, vomiting, fever, and neurological problems a month later. The patient was admitted to multiple hospitals before passing away on May 27. The CCDC examined cerebral fluid from the patient in April and discovered indications of the monkey bee virus. The monkey bee virus infection is exceedingly rare, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, but it can also cause severe brain damage or death if not treated immediately. People who are bitten or scratched by an infected macaque monkey or who come into contact with the monkey's eyes, nose, or mouth can become infected with the virus. Symptoms can develop 1 month after being infected with the virus, but they can also appear in as little as 3 to 7 days. Moving on to the next news. The heavy rains, which started on the 17th of 2021, caused havoc across Henan province and almost paralyzed Zhengzhou, the provincial capital, cutting off electricity and water supplies on 20th of July 2021. This natural disaster has caused at least 25 people were killed and another 7 were missing as torrential rain lashed China's central province of Henan, causing landslides and flooding that partially submerged the underground rail system of Zhengzhou. About 200,000 residents were evacuated as on the 21st of July 2021 as soldiers led rescue efforts in Zhengzhou, a city of more than 10 million of people, where days of rain have inundated the streets and subway, local government officials said. Images shared on social media showed passengers up to their necks in water and clinging to the handrails inside a carriage on Zhengzhou's subway. Other passengers filmed videos of the water rising in the tunnels outside the carriage windows. The casualties are expected to rise as rescue work continues in the days to come. Chinese media called the rainfall unseen in the last 1,000 years. Some worry that given the scale of the damage, the post-disaster reconstruction will be particularly challenging for one of the most populous provinces in China. Parliament reconvened. Political turmoil intensifies. How did this affect the youngsters' political interest? Look at a special report done by our reporter, Jun Hao, to understand it better.
Politics, a word that sounds serious and complicated, but it exists around us daily. Youngsters, a group of people who we regard as the pillars of the country's future. The construction and development of countries cannot be carried out in the absence of this group of people. But what if the youngsters are losing its interest on politics? Why is this happening, and what is the solution for this?
Parliament, which has been suspended for more than half a year, finally reconvenes this week. Sparks flew around on the first day.
Mana ada master point of order? Sampai saya minta baringi lawan sekejap saja.
Since the historical changes of government in 2018, Malaysia politics has gradually heated up. Sheraton move that was happened in 2020 resulted to the second switch of government happen. After that, a series of political disputes happened. Non-stop party hopping, Sabah election, state of emergency, suspension of parliament, UMNO withdraws support on Prime Minister, make people feel tired and confused, especially among the youth. A report released by Merdeka Center in May of this year showing that 78% of the respondents aged between 18 to 30 said politics and government seem so complicated that they cannot really understand what is going on. More than 70% of the respondents also expressed that they have no interest to participate in politics. Scholars pointed out that the phenomenon of young people's political indifference has long existed. Political chaos exacerbates the alienation of young people from politics.
This is why for the past few years, many NGOs, even the political parties, they have been trying to stimulate the interest of younger people, the younger generation. So Malaysia still has a long way to go when it comes to engaging young people in political issues and getting them interested. Political chaos, in fact, if you look at certain countries like South Korea, like Thailand, maybe even in the Middle East, sometimes political chaos has the effect of creating more interest, especially, you look at our neighbors, Thailand and all that. There's usually this link. It's usually the university students who, in fact, are part of the chaos, who create the chaos, and therefore they're more interested, and so on and so forth. Now, if you go back to Malaysia, why is it that somehow they say it's complicated and so on and so forth? A few possibilities are, which is there. Based on my understanding, based on my conversations with college people, and so, I find that many college and university students in Malaysia, they are usually they don't talk that much about politics. They may know very superficially or the big events that happen, but if you ask them deeper, you ask them for details, you ask them a little bit about the stories, the narratives, the players, the key players, the events coming up. I think many youth in Malaysia just, you could say, they've got too much on their minds, or they prefer to look at Netflix or entertainment and that kind of stuff.
Political turmoil in Malaysia is confusing and reduces youngsters' attention to politics. But in other countries, where political turmoil, demonstrations, and other political activities have also occurred, the degree of young people's attention to politics is obviously higher than the youth in Malaysia. Why is there such a situation?
Malaysia, if you realize, unlike Korea, unlike Thailand, unlike Hong Kong, we have a mix of race, So it's interesting, I'm still thinking through it. could that be one factor that somehow, I don't know, maybe does that mean that somehow the multiple ethnicity somehow prevent political engagement? Or is it slower? Or people are more hesitant? Or people are afraid to cause more trouble, and that kind of thing. Compared to Hong Kong, immediately, everyone Chinese, everyone complain, Thai, everyone's Thai. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that could be one reason.
Although generally young people are not keen on politics, but surveys show that 88% youngsters agree that Malaysians need to develop new political thinking that is no longer premised on race and religious differences. Scholars concluded that education and awareness need to be instilled in youngsters' daily life to slowly grow the political consciousness among youth.
Now we'll be moving on to the sports news for today. The 2020-2021 NBA season has come to an end on Tuesday night. Let us take a closer look at the final match. In Game 6 of the 2021 NBA Finals, the Milwaukee Bucks defeated the Phoenix Suns with 105 versus 98 to clinch their first championship in 50 years. The Bucks became the fifth team in NBA history to win the finals after falling behind 2-0, and the first to do so by winning the next 4 games since Miami defeated Dallas in 2006.
Feeling the presence, turns out an easy shot on dunk attempt and fades away from the rim. It's the presence of Giannis. Antetokounmpo off the glass.
As expected, the Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP goes to Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo by scoring 50 points in the final game with 14 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 2 assists.
I don't think there's much doubt, but he played through adversity, he played through injury. No doubt, given he was the 2-time MVP in the league, this year's Bill Russell Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
The NBA's previous MVPs, such as LeBron James from Lakers, Stephen Curry from Warriors, and Kevin Durant from Nets, offered their blessings in succession, congratulating Bucks for winning this season. Later on Giannis' post-game interview, he mentioned how the legendary basketball player Kobe Bryant helped him believe that he could lead the Milwaukee Bucks to an NBA championship.
At first, I was joking. I didn't thought he's going to respond to me. But when he did, he made me believe. I'm Kobe Bryant thinks I can do this. I can play in the higher level and lead my team and win an MVP, and I had to do it. I had to work hard.
With the perfect end of 2020-2021 season, all the NBA players could finally take a rest and start preparing on the upcoming new season, which is due on October this year. Next on sports news, the long-awaited Tokyo 2020 Olympics have finally begun. Let us recap the highlights of the opening ceremony at the world's most anticipated athletic competition. After being delayed for a year, the Olympics Games have officially begun. The opening ceremony was held on the 23rd of July 2021 at Olympic Stadium of Tokyo, Japan. The ceremony was conducted with strict safety precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19 cases. There were no live audiences at the ceremony except for the athletes and each country's officials. Japanese singer Mija performed the national anthem of Japan, and 1,824 drones were flown to assemble a 3D version of the Tokyo Olympic Games logo and the Earth. The ceremony also included a parade for the nations where representative athletes would march across the stadium. Japanese tennis player Naomi Osaka had the honors of lighting the Olympic cauldron that was designed by designer Oki Sato. The cauldron was designed to represent Mount Fuji of Japan. With that, we would like to wish all the best to every athlete who is taking part in the Games. That's all for today's news. Thank you for watching UCSI TV News. Once again, I'm Aini. Goodbye and stay safe.